Hello, friend, and welcome to another episode of Van Life Living in the Ark. I'll tell you, I'm out here enjoying the nature again, as always. And as you can see, I have this beautiful view. I was going to sit in my chair somewhere comfortable and talk today. So anyway, I was having a conversation with my mother this morning, and we were talking about, well, there's a person that I love in my life that, well, he's going through a hard time, and he's like me. He's learning life the hard way, right? But the beautiful thing about that is Christians quite often don't understand what potential these folks have that are really going through a hard time. People that have become addicted to drugs and addicted to all kind of insanity. Because I was trying to explain to her about what Jesus said and about the fact that even though it's all wrong, it's still all right. And even though you would judge other people for it, you can't, because my Father, He allows us all to do it, right? He knew the end in the beginning and He chose to do it anyway. So here's the beautiful thing, and if you understand this, you can start seeing things from a different perspective. And that is that because he's had a really hard time, he's going to be like the woman that came to Jesus when he was at the table with the Pharisee. And the Pharisee was thinking to himself, I can't believe Jesus is letting him touch him because she's so filthy. And then Jesus said to him, a man owed his master a small debt, and another owed his master a very large debt. The master forgives them both, so who's going to love them more? And the Pharisee said, of course, the one that received the greater forgiveness, right? Because he has more to love him for. So understand that when people go out there and feed the hungry and clothe the naked and visit people in prison, friend, you are dealing with the crowd that has the greatest opportunity to give my Father the greatest love. Because if you hold parties for people, you know, your friends, Jesus told you not to do that. He's like, when you hold a party, go out and gather the hungry and the naked and invite them instead. Because if you're looking to bring God a greater crop and you're looking to find a greater experience of love, when you just love those that love you and you invite them over, they appreciate nothing because they already have it all for themselves. But when you give more to those that have less, and you don't have a reason to and you do it anyway, well then they love you and don't even know why. And then when they ask you why, then you tell them this Jesus taught you that, right? So that's what I try to do when my Father allows it and when that's what I'm supposed to do. Because sometimes I'm out enjoying the woods like this. Sometimes I might be doing something else, right? But just give the Father credit for all of it. And then that thought of Satan, which is your thought of selfishness, can't blow you up. Because what I've learned is, as long as I don't climb, I don't fall, right? However, on the other hand, those that have climbed up on pride have to fall from it, right? But the beautiful thing is, once you've done it like I have, you realize that the climb's just not worth the fall. And even though I say that's the truth, it's also a lie, because if I wouldn't have made the climb and the fall, I would not have appreciated what I found in the valley of love. So how do I explain that? Because even though it's wrong to do it, it ends up being right if you make a new choice. And then because you've done it, you can then go out and teach other people that don't know how to find a higher love, how to find it. And because they find it through you and you give God and the firstborn the credit, well then they get the credit, but you get the credit also, and then you store your treasure in the kingdom because you didn't accept it here, right? So that's what Jesus was talking about. Yet even though I'm not getting it here, I get it here all the time. And it doesn't matter whether I get it from anyone else because I get it from my Father through the Holy Spirit. So even though I've got nothing, I've got everything, and because both are true, neither are. Jesus told you such a simple truth, yet it's hidden from those that don't want it. But once you figure all these things out, you have to understand that Jesus said that those that teach others to abide in the law and abide in it themselves will be great in the kingdom, but those that don't abide in the law and don't teach others to abide in it will be less in the kingdom. So even though I have a greater kingdom because I had a lesser one first, I'm not recommending for you to go do that because of the pain it causes you and others while you're doing it. So I have to be like Jesus. I have to tell you that love is the purpose of the world, and the problem is when everyone is out being more instead of being less for the world and being more for my Father, well then the suffering increases until you've got what you see in this nation. The suffering has gotten so bad that our children are doing terrible things because they no longer feel like they're part of the tribe to which they belong. Because since this was declared a Christian nation, it should be a tribe for God, a tribe for Christ. But it's not that anymore. Not that it really was to begin with, friend. I'm going to tell you something. You really need to go learn some history and realize that the history that this nation gave you was pretty much a lie. And I'm not telling you to believe me, because there's all kinds of documentaries out there and you can learn the true history of this nation. My father sent me to the Statue of Liberty once so that I could see that the truth they taught me was a lie. Because there's a whole different reason on why they welcomed people to our shores, friend. That immigration was the replacement of slave labor. Because they could no longer bring in slaves, they had to find people that had nothing and that would be willing to scratch for whatever they could and go work in factories and all that. Now, just like anything, there's opportunity in everything. But when we pretend as though that they were doing it out of love for us instead of selfishness for themselves, well then we're not looking at the truth. And I'm not judging them for it, friend. That's called human nature, right? And before I found God, I was being selfish and causing suffering even though I didn't mean to, because I was thinking more about me instead of my Father and my neighbor. So we're all accidentally hurting each other by ignoring each other. So I'm only here to talk to people that are like me, that had a lesser kingdom, that weren't finding joy. And friend, I'm telling you, I've been to a lot of churches, and a lot of the people in church are just like me. They were unhappy. They had no understanding on why God created the world. Let me give it to you. The purpose of the world is to come to know love by experience. Because you have more to give to those that have less. And when those that have less you give more to, they have the opportunity to then give more to another. So getting the kingdom is not about just receiving it in grace. Because Jesus did say that. First you receive it from Him through grace, which usually comes by getting it from others, right? Because if you found that seed, it's because someone else gave it to you, right? It isn't like we have Bibles laying around out in the woods and everywhere you go. You sought a higher truth and you found it because somebody gave it to you. But be careful, because men that get degrees from men on God only have the degree from men. You need to seek the Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit of truth, the one that Jesus promised you could have. He said, knock and the door will be opened. But as long as you're listening to other people tell you what their truth is, you'll never find my Father's, because the truth you need is going to be given to you by the Father. Because you and I are going to have come from two different realities, right? Even though we both live here in the world, I've been through one set of experiences and you've been through another. So I can tell you the truth that I have and how I got it, but you won't be able to relate to it because you didn't travel that road. But the Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit of truth, will be able to give it to you exactly the way you need it in order to receive a greater kingdom. And then he will give it to you so that you may give it to others. And then when you give it to others, the kingdom that you received will increase. And this kingdom is joy, peace, and love. And that doesn't mean that you'll be having it in the world as far as what you have, because I have nothing left, friend, except debt. And I'm doing what my Father asks because it's the only thing worth doing. And if you listen to my other videos, you know Unholy Trinity now owns America, and so therefore me worrying about paying the beast doesn't really matter to me anymore, because that Unholy Trinity has enslaved us all and nobody knows it yet, but they will. And when they do, friend, expect this storm that's on the horizon to hit. But in the meantime, it doesn't matter, because even when it hits, my Father will be my rest in the storm. And he will ask things of me, and I don't know what they'll be yet. But if I give them to him, then I will continue to find joy, peace, and love, even though the world around me is in turmoil. Because, friend, if you haven't noticed, the world is already in turmoil. This nation, everyone's scared because people are killing each other. Doesn't appear safe anywhere because the news is scaring you to death. I'm telling you, you're already at that place, but I'm telling you it's about to get worse. But it doesn't matter, because if you seek this kingdom, you will find it. But now's the time, because if you wait until the light's gone, how are you going to be the light in the darkness if you didn't find the light first? So understand that Jesus gave parable after parable. He told you about the end of the age and the way it was going to look, and he said that you were going to have to light your lamps, and some people were going to have enough oil and some weren't. He did not tell you that you were going to get out of here easy, friend. He said that we were all going to go through a bit of a trial. I go through a trial all the time. I have to choose. Do I choose the world, or do I choose my Father? And it's a challenge to choose God over the world, because no one else understands that. When I was trying to explain those things to my mother is great in love, but not in knowledge of Christ. Because she understands the love of the Father, she did not seek the knowledge. But a woman is more loved by nature, and a man, to find love, has to seek knowledge. You have to understand it, but now that's true about women too, because they're no longer staying at home taking care of the children. See, there was a reason that it was all set up the way it was, but we made a new choice, and so now we have one. But even so, I know this one woman that is so full of love, yet so full of knowledge. And though I can't be around her right now, because even though she understands me and we have the same truth, we don't, because she founded what is called the Course of Miracles. But my Father took me first to the Bible, then to the Course of Miracles, then back to the Bible. And what I found is that the Course of Miracles is all about the spirit of the law, not in abiding in it. And so half a truth still doesn't bring you the kingdom. And if you don't seek the kingdom, you won't find it. But the only way to keep it is to abide in the law, which is the law of love. Now, she does that all by nature, just like my mother. And she's one of the greatest loves I've ever met. But nonetheless, just because I love her does not mean that I can be with her, right? Because, well, let's just say John the Baptist would turn over in his grave. But nonetheless, I've really enjoyed the fact that I've had so many people that had such great love teach me so much about love. And then because I sought Jesus in the Bible and believed what he said was true, my Father gave me a greater kingdom. I knocked and the door was open. And now I have the bread of life. But the only way for me to keep it is to give it away, because the more I give, the more I get, right? So that's just the way that works. So if you keep the bread, it goes stale, and then you end up with no new bread. So you have to do what Jesus said. You have to knock on the door to the kingdom. The Father's going to say, go away, the hour is late, I'm in bed with my children. And you're going to have to be like, Father, give me the bread. Don't give up. Don't let him get away with that. Friend, I'm telling you, my Father knew the end in the beginning. And when you start putting that logic to the love that Christianity's supposed to have, Christianity starts making no sense, because they're trying to make sense of the world, not making sense of the kingdom. So when you're ready for a greater kingdom, my Father will give it to you, but your preachers and priests can't give it to you because they don't have it. And I can't give it to you because you have to receive it directly from the Father through the Holy Spirit. Yet, I received it from the firstborn because he gave it to me through the Holy Spirit. And because I know him, I know my Father. And because I know my Father, I really know him. But the only way to really get to know him is to do the things he asked. You have to go give your gifts in secret. Do all the things he asked. I'm telling you, you'll find it. It's here. It's yours to have. But the only way to keep it is to give it away. You got to remember that. Once you start getting it, you've got to give it away. But those of you that had a lot to be forgiven for, wait till you feel this forgiveness and then start giving it to others, and then it really increases. And then you're going to find yourself, even though you want to help everyone, you can't give them what you have because what you have is greater than what the world has. And so therefore you'll give them what the Father tells you to give, and then you'll spend great time just rejoicing with him in lonely places, because that's where you receive the greatest love and can give the greatest love, right? Because other people won't understand what it is you have once you receive your love greater than the world. And it doesn't mean that you're going to always be perfect. Just the other day, I was at Red Lobster because somebody gave me a gift card, right, for Christmas, so that I could go with the family because I don't have a job. And so I went, and to my disappointment, they didn't have crab, and I had a little bit of a resentment about that, friend. I get to go there once a year, and I love that meal. And since I don't have any money and I don't have a job, that was my one shot at getting my snow crab, right? And my ultimate feast, the way I like it at Red Lobster. And I was, be quite honest with you, feeling quite selfish, thinking to myself, they blew it. My one day of the year, right? How selfish is that, friend? And then, of course, I'm like upset, like it's the waiter's fault. It's not the waiter's fault, right? So what did I do when I didn't yell at him or anything, but I just didn't treat him with joy and love after he told me that. I was kind of upset. I'm like, and so, you know what I did? I said, Father, forgive me, for I know not what I do. And he forgives me because I forgive you. I forgive them for not being perfect and not knowing that they were going to have a huge crowd the day before that would cause them to run out of crab. You see, friend, this world's unpredictable. We're all doing the best we can with what we have. But the problem is, because we keep having high expectations of others, we end up holding them more accountable, which then makes us hold ourselves more accountable. So if I forgive them their debts, I can be forgiven mine, right? That's what Jesus said. That's what the Lord's Prayer says. It says, forgive us our debts as we forgive those who debt against us. So my job is to forgive everybody their debts so that I may be forgiven mine. Right? How simple is that? Not as simple sometimes, let me tell you, friend. I had some major childhood trauma that turned me into a very angry, resentful teenager and into a drunk and a drug addict and an addict of everything. Friend, I've done it all wrong. I've drank, I've got high, gambled at casinos, sex, porn. I'm just not this great guy, friend. But if my Father will give me this kingdom because I choose him over the world, I'm telling you, he'll give it to you too. But the price will be high and the path will be narrow. And though other people will say it's not narrow, you will have to give up your own selfishness. And other people will judge you just like they did Jesus. And you won't care just like he didn't, because the kingdom you have will be so great that it won't really matter to you anymore. And you'll love him anyway. and then you'll go feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit people in prison, do the things he asked. You've got a talent, friend. I don't know who you are. I probably never met you, but I'm telling you, you have a talent that my father could use to help other people, and that talent would bring you the kingdom. Just trust him. All right, friend. Well, I'm going to go back to enjoying nature. Just know that I love you because my Father loves you, and may God bless you and yours.